right, welcome everyone to our property, our house in Mar Vista.
We've been here before.
We wanted to give you an update on the house renovation. We're going to be talking today about capital improvements, about the renovations or the work that we put into properties that you don't see, like the roof and the foundation and that kind of stuff. But in the meantime, we couldn't resist showing you a status update on where we're at with this house, specifically the kitchen.
It's too beautiful, so we just had, we do this all the time, and we wanted to talk about, the stuff you don't see, but I mean, come on, look at this.
So everything here is new. We blew out the wall over here and put in, obviously, new countertops, cabinetry. The appliances we were actually able to salvage from the previous owner.
Except the stove, this is new.
Yeah, the stove is new, but the dishwasher and the fridge is from the previous owner. We built out this pantry, really beautiful cabinetry, and we're going to go upstairs and we'll start talking to you about the Instagram Live today, which is about capital improvements.
The more boring stuff, not the sexy glamour of this kitchen.
The inner beauty.
Yeah, but it really matters and goes a long way. All right, so now that we're upstairs,
show you the view.
Again, we couldn't resist. So this house we're going to put on the market for lease, and we'll probably do a final walkthrough once it's done. But I mean, on a terrible day in LA, this is not so bad.
See Catalina to the left.
But you have views of Venice, Santa Monica, Mar Vista. You can see the ocean there. So I think this house is really going to...
Clear day, you can see the Santa Monica Mountains. So yeah, we're super stoked about this. House came out great.
Yeah.
So I think right now we'll jump into the capital improvements part of our segment today. We're going to be talking today about the capital improvements, the renovations that we do on properties that you don't see. We normally will walk through like one or two buildings a week and show you guys properties that we're renovating, kitchens, bathrooms, living rooms, reconfiguring the units, basically the interiors, but you don't see a lot of what goes on with replacing roofs and bolting and replacing foundations and replacing electrical panels and repiping buildings. So we wanted to talk about some of that stuff because it is super important, even though it's not as obvious as the renovations that we do.
Yeah, it's not as glamorous, and it doesn't make us money in the long term or in any term, right? Mm-hmm. But it keeps the building operating properly. Maybe it will save us, if you don't do the plumbing, maybe there'll be more leaks, and so your water bill will be higher. But it's the stuff that really matters, and if you're going to hold a building long term, you're not going to see these issues down the road. So you might as well take care of it if and when you're doing renovations. And a lot of the things, I think the four main systems that we look at are the roof, the plumbing, the electrical, and the foundation. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that are more capital intensive than the rest. And it's what really goes into the operations, like the functionality of the building. And what's interesting, it rained today. It's going to rain all weekend. It rained a month ago. We had the biggest rainstorm LA's seen in a long time, and we were having a ton of roof leaks, and even our managers were saying across their portfolio, all the buildings they manage. So we've actually been doing a tremendous amount of roof replacements right now, a lot of roof patch jobs, things to help with this ongoing rain.
It's pretty common for us that when we buy, I was actually just talking to a broker on the way here, and I was telling them that the average owner that we're buying from, their family has owned the property for 25 or so years on average. Some of them it's 10 years, some of them it's 50 years, but on average it's around 25 years. And a lot of them live off of the buildings for their income, and they're not reinvesting that money into the building. So they may have had the same roof for the past 20, 25 years, and we're inheriting that roof. And we're gonna have the downpours come in and have to deal with leaks through the roof into units, tenants complaining about it. And so what Max and I have discovered over the last couple of years of buying buildings is that we're better off, instead of waiting for the complaints to come in, to be more proactive. And in the long run, we end up saving money and creating a better rentable product for the tenants as well.
Yeah, and roof patch jobs, will be anywhere between $500 to maybe $2,000-$3,000. There's a 10-year roof that has been costing us. I mean, look, it depends on the square footage, of course.
Size of the roof, yeah.
But talk about like a regular 10-unit apartment building, 2-story, maybe it's a 8,000 square foot building or something, right? So a 10-year roof may cost somewhere around 12 to 15,000, and then if you do a full roof replacement, which is usually good for about 20 plus years, you're looking at 20, 25,000, sometimes $30,000 in cost. Mm-hmm. But we see it as something that we should be doing to prevent any other issues, moisture problems, ceiling problems in units, potential mold, right? Because when you get all that moisture into the building and it sits, you also have the potential for mold. So roofs have been a big one. The other one that we've been doing a lot of right now is plumbing. These buildings that were built in the 50s and 60s were built with galvanized piping. And it's good for 40 to 60 years. You start getting a lot of corrosion, a ton of leaks. So now's the time, like these buildings built in the 50s and 60s, it's now 2020, well 2023, but so 60, 70 years have gone by, time for a repipe.
Yeah, and it's always a balance of determining when to do things, because we don't want to spend money unnecessarily. At the same time, we want to be proactive in terms of taking care of problems that we know are going to come up in the future. So when we buy properties, we walk through with our contractor, we walk through with a building inspector, and sometimes even with an architect. And these vendors are there, they're professional. Our building inspector has been doing this for longer than probably we've been alive. So he knows exactly what to check, takes pictures, crawls under the building, goes onto the roof. We have sewer line camera inspections to take a look at that, as well as have electricians come out to take a look at the panels. And like I was saying, it's always a balance of knowing, okay, do we do the roof now? Is it better to do the 10-year, or do we do the full replacement, the 20-year? And so I think we wanted to kind of dive into some of those examples of those decisions that we have to make on a regular basis.
Yeah, and a good example, it happened yesterday. One of our contractors called us because we're building an ADU. It's basically West Hollywood. It's like 2 blocks west of West Hollywood. And they're replacing the main plumbing line, like the water line that feeds the building. And he said, we're all dug up, we're looking at the sewer line, and it looks really old. Well, of course it's really old. The building was built so long ago. Yeah. And he said, have you had any problems? And we said, no. And he said, well, maybe you guys should just leave it. And we asked him, well, what is the cost? Because replacing a sewer line could cost you, between $10,000 and $30,000, depending on how much you do. And a lot of that is getting the concrete out, getting the dirt out, just getting to the sewer line, because it sits 2 to 5, 6 feet below ground. And he said to replace this section of the line will be about $5,000. And we thought,
we're already there.
Yeah, we're already the $15,000 of the way there. Let's just do it.
Yeah, and so it's those kind of circumstances where we have to weigh our options. And in this circumstance, we already did the digging, we're already down there, contractor's already at the property, construction's already ongoing. So we said, hey, we're going to own this, for the next 20, 30, 40, whoever knows.
Probably till we're walking like this.
So it's like, well, let's just do it. Let's just do it now, as opposed to waiting 5, 10 years. And by then the cost may be triple what it is now. So let's get it done. However, if we weren't building out that ADU, we probably wouldn't be doing that right now.
Until it was a problem, which, we own a building downtown and we were having backups, and the sewer was coming back up into some of our units. And in that case, we had to, right? Mm-hmm. And that's ultimately how is you never know until there's a major problem. And then you have to do the investigation. But here we're fortunate that we're not going to have that problem. We're going to take care of it now, and hopefully it will last us a long time. And then the third system is electrical. And electrical has been interesting lately because there's a few factors that have been going in where these electrical systems are old and they can't support new washer dryers, air conditioning, new stoves, right? All these things that, all the new technology things that we're using, on top of when we add ADUs, when we add units, when we add bedrooms and bathrooms. So we've been actually upgrading a lot of our electrical systems. And some of them are even dated, where insurance companies won't even insure properties that have, like Federal Pacific, Zinsco, like some of these older systems that are actually susceptible to fires.
Yeah, so we've had a number of units that we finished and then had to wait a couple months because the electrical meters had to be set up, and that's been kind of a recurring delay that we've been trying to, as best as we can, get in front of so that we don't have those kinds of delays in the future. So we've talked about roofs, we talked about electrical, plumbing, foundation, and structural.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it. I think the lessons that we've learned, if we can kind of sum it up, would be stay ahead, be proactive when we can, and while the walls are open, while the dirt is dug up, do what you can, because it's better to do it then than waiting and have to open up walls again or dig up the dirt again.
Yeah, and the big thing is like on a building where maybe we haven't upgraded the plumbing or the electrical or the roof, and we've stabilized the asset, we've rented it out, we're cash flowing, we've been keeping, $30,000-$40,000 in reserves in our bank account in case these things happen. Because the last thing we want to do is go back to our investors and say, hey, the roof, or hey, the electrical, and we need to do a capital call. So we're holding reserves on a lot of the buildings that we're cash flowing just in case anything does come up in the future.
Hope this was informative and shared some of what we've learned about doing capital improvements to our properties. If you'd like to reach out, Max at thegoldfingergroup.com, Instagram at thegoldfingergroup, at Eliyahu. Thanks for watching.